Hello everyone. In this lecture, I'm going to teach you how to use the main toolbars, which is on the left-hand side of your screen. You have a pop-out window, which you can point to New and select Large Object Millimeter. If somehow you skipped this step, you can also go to Tools and Options and to check or change the unit. So when I click on unit, it says millimeter and the tolerance is this is by default for large object millimeter. So in this lecture, I'm going to teach you this whole set of toolbar right here. It's called the main toolbar. Some of them are very simple and easy and very intuitive to use. For example, this one is to draw a polyline. And the next one is to draw curvy line, which you can just click and press enter. And this is to draw a rectangular shape. And this one is to draw an arc. When we draw arc, there are a couple of different ways of doing it. One is a 3 points arc, or this one is a center plus another 2 points on the arc. So you have different options, and many of this toolbar can be extended, and you can draw a different thing. For example, under drawing a curvy line, you can also draw something called a helix. So let's go to draw a curvy line and go to helix and click on anywhere on the screen as the beginning point and anywhere on the screen as the end point. Also, keep in mind, if you want to draw something really only horizontal or vertical, you can press on Shift on your keyboard to lock the direction to either horizontal or vertical. Otherwise, if you release Shift, it can go any direction. So I'm just going any direction and keep it on it. Okay, it's coming up. So one thing is, of course, you can change the turns. Anything that's appear on the command line, there's a bracket following, and there are many options. So let's change the turns from 5 to 10. So I can just click and finish the helix. Of course, there are many different things that you can do. You can do a ellipse, or you can do a star. So select the star, which is under polygon. Star is just a different special type of polygon, and click on it. You can just very easily just keep clicking on it. You can also select the number of sides, which you click on the option there, which is now at 5. Click on it, and then you press 10, for example, and press enter. And then corner of the star can be here, and then you can actually have 2 different directions of the star, either in or out. So I'm just going to click on anywhere. So that's a star. So practice on all of this and see what you can do. This whole set up to here is to draw lines plus a point, which we hardly use, but you can actually draw a point. And down below, these two are about surfaces. One is to draw surface, another is to edit surface. And the next is about solid. One is to draw solid, another is to edit solid. And then the next one is called projection. So I'll come back to explain just a little bit more once I finish introducing all of these tools, or at least the most important of them. So the next one is project. And under projection, there are quite a few different options which you can actually project a curve to a surface. You can also pull a curve to a surface, which are actually different. Or you can duplicate a border of a surface. So I'm not going to go into details of all of that. The next one is mesh, which I have never used and I'm fine not to using them. The next one is join, and this two actually is join and explode. For example, right now this star is one atom because it is connected, but I can explode it so that it becomes separate atoms. It becomes single lines. I can also select all of them and join them. So you have join and explode. We will teach you this more in details when we get into individual project. The next one is to trim. Trim, it's actually trim and break. Trim is very important. For example, I have a line. I have another line going over it. These two actually are touching each other, but even they don't touch, you can also trim. These two are actually on my top view. So if you look at your other elevations, they look just like one line because they are flat on the same surface. So for example, I can trim, select trim, and always keep this in mind. You always read your command line, select the cutting objects, which can be this. Press enter when done, so I press enter and select the object to trim, which is this one. Then once you're done, you say you press enter. So this is a very simple trim. Another thing that you could do is you can trim objects even that they don't touch each other. For example, let me delete this and I will trim this line using a line that's crossing it, but I'm moving this line. So far, these two lines are touching each other because they're at the same level, but I can move one a little bit taller from front view. And so far, these two are no longer touching each other, which you can sort of see it using orbit and, have a look rotating on the perspective view and see that they are not touching each other because they're not at the same level. However, they do look like they're crossing with each other on the top view. So I can use trim, do the same thing and select the cutting. And there's something called extend lines. It says no, and apparent intersection also says no. So if you want to trim items that are not touching each other, you should check both as yes. And then let me select my cutting object, press enter, and then I can trim off my other object. You may not be able to do if the option of extended line or apparent intersection are selected as no. For example, let's go back to, I'll just press Ctrl and Z to bring back what I already created in there before the trim and do a trim again. For example, I change this to no and no, and select cutting object, press enter, and select object to trim. Then you realize it's not actually trimming. So this is one thing very important about this software is it does not always do what you command it to do unless you really know all the details. However, it is not possible that you know everything about this software. So there's always some risk and also involves problem solving skills. So the next one is break. I will, or called the split. I will leave this one for now. Group. Group is very important. Group and ungroup both are very important. For example, I have quite a few items here that they don't really touch each other, but I want them to be together. So for example, if I drag and move, by the way, you can just click on the item and select them and drag them. This is very intuitive. So if I want them to be moved together, I need to group them. They should remain as individual objects. They should be in one group. This is different than join. When you join objects, first of all, they should touch each other so that they can be joined. And also, once you join them, they become one object. And the group is different. A group, you can group any object even that they're not touching each other. And once you group them, they're still individual object. You can ungroup them and anytime bring a single object out of the group. So let me group them. So now I can move them. Okay, I can also select the group and group it. So that's group. I will skip some of it if they are really not that important and is fine that you don't know them. I will come to this one. This function is called points on. So there are a lot of other options. Now I'm only going to introduce you the control point on. So let's click on points on. So what happened is, if you look at the items that I created before, there are the points is reappearing again, because when you first create them, you actually will see the control point, but once you press enter and finish your command, you no longer see the control point. To bring them back, you have to come here to press on points on. So then you can edit whatever that you created. So this is a very important tool. For example, this corners of this rectangular, if I select one of them and start to drag, then it would create a different shape. So points on is very important. This tool right here altogether is called a transform. There are many important tools such as move, rotate, mirror, and this is to produce an array. Array is just a more complicated way of copying objects. So we will come back to this whole set of tools in the future. And of course here is copy, and I believe there's also copy under transform. So as you can see, there are a lot of duplicates, and it really depends on your habit which tool is more convenient for you. And here is rotate, and there's also rotate under the toolbar of transform. And this is to scale. Some of these tools to the end of this toolbar are more sophisticated, and we can probably skip them for now. So let me come back to these two tools here. One is called to create a surface, another one is to edit surface. So I will briefly introduce, because that's going to be a highlight of this lecture. So first of all, I'm going to create a shape that is not a regular shape, because I can draw curvy lines. I can also draw curvy lines that's kind of together creating a more dramatic shape. One thing I need to add to this lecture is, as you can probably imagine, when I draw shape or line, I want them to actually join. But no matter how many times I zoom in, you will never be able to draw. I'm going to continue this command. You might be pretty close to the other end, but you will never be able to exactly starting from the end that you finish. So what you need to do, you need to snap to something. Snap is snap. Okay, so you need to snap to it. If you don't snap to it, you will never be able to draw something precisely. So how do I snap to it? I need to bring out something called O snap, which is at the bottom. There are a couple of, there are actually quite a few options that you can choose. We are not going to go over all of them, but this O snap is very important. So click on it. It is possible that this is already appearing. So if that's the case, then you don't need to click on it, because once you click on it, it will disappear. So click on it. The simplest thing that I want to do is first snap to the end. Of course, there are many other options. You can snap to an end, or you can snap to a middle point, or a center, which most of the time works for a circle. So I'm going to snap to the end and leave out the rest unselected. So once I start to continue to draw a curve, I'm actually be able to snap to the end. Once I'm happy, I'm happy with this curve, I just press enter, and you can actually press enter again to repeat your command. So for example, I'm pressing enter to finish drawing the curvy line, and press enter again to bring back my command as drawing a curved line. So once you are happy, you've finished, and you have some kind of a shape, very interesting. So of course this is not a surface yet. This is just lines. The next thing I'm going to do is to bring back the control point, as hopefully you still remember that you need to click on points on. I'm going to just select a few of them. In this case, I'm going to select 4 of them in the center of the shape, and then what I want to do is I want to change the height of these points, because all of them so far, if you check on your elevations, they're all flat. So what I want to do is I want to give them a height by coming to by the way, this is move, okay, to move, by selecting move and using my front view, and simply just start to move. Remember, if you want to move only vertically, you should press on shift. So I moved the lines, and now I'm happy with whatever I have here as a 3-dimensional line. Once I'm done, I no longer need my control point, so I will press escape, ESC on the keyboard, on the upper left of your keyboard, and press that. So you escaped from the command or the situation that you're in. So now I have an interesting set of curvy lines. So 1, 2 I'm going to teach you is draw a surface. The most interesting one is this one, and it's very straightforward. So click on the surface tool, if you still remember what this tool is, and expand it and select surface. So select this, and if you put your mouse over it, it actually says surface from, it's gone. Okay, it actually says surface from 2, 3, 4 edge curves. So I have 4 edges there. I don't have more than 4 or less than 2, so this is a proper tool to use. So click on it and select the open curves, and just select all the curves by dragging. So once I selected, a surface has already been generated, except I do not see it as a surface. What I need to do is I need to change my display mode. So I'm going to use, I don't really have anything too interesting here, so I'm just going to use rendered display mode. Okay, so a surface is already done. So this class, this lecture will finish here, and I will keep adding more lectures.